Welcome to Getting Neighborly in Fairview, Texas, the official community podcast for the town of Fairview, hosted by the Fairview Economic Development Corporation. On every episode, we spend time getting to know our neighbors and hearing the stories that make our town a community. This is Getting Neighborly in Fairview, Texas. Howdy friends, this is Super Dave Quinn, and welcome to another episode of Getting Neighborly here in Fairview, Texas. I'm your host, and I am here with a good friend and a person who I am excited to be visiting with today. I've had the opportunity to serve with him on the chamber board here in the Allen Fairview Chamber. Mr. Joe Boggs, Fairview resident and home mortgage extraordinaire. So, Joe, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dave.
We are excited to talk to you. We are doing this show to meet our neighbors, and you are obviously a resident and very active member of the community, and we appreciate your service and all the things you do for our community. And we just want to get to know you. Tell us a little bit about your story, how you got to Fairview. Tell us about your family. I know you have kids in the local school district, and then a little bit about what you do and how you're able to do that here in Fairview. So, Joe, tell us how you got to Fairview. What's your Fairview story? I like to start with that.
It's a pretty short trip. So I've only lived, and I'm born and raised in Garland. So I lived in Dallas County, then went to school in UNT, so Denton County, and ever since then I've been in Collin County. So between Richardson, Allen multiple times, Frisco once or twice, and we lived in Twin Creeks in Allen for 12 years prior to moving here to Fairview a few years ago. And so we found an opportunity. My wife and I had already spoken. We got 3 children. So Chandler's the oldest, and he's off at Texas Tech. He's a sophomore, doing very well, I have to add. He's in the ROTC Air Force there at Texas Tech, so I'm very, very proud of him. And then I've got a 14-year-old girl that goes to Willow Springs, the middle school, and then I've got one that'll be there next year, Lainey. She's my youngest, and she's my wild child. And so Patsy and I have been married 16 years, and like I said, been here 3.5. So we live on a few acres, and we're really fortunate. So we love Twin Creeks, loved Allen schools. And we always said that the only way that we would ever leave Allen is for Lovejoy. And I'm a little bit country.
And Lovejoy is the school district.
Yeah, for the Lovejoy ISD. It's the only thing that, we loved Allen schools. And so we had no intention on pulling our children from Allen unless it would be Lovejoy or Allen. Those are the only 2 school districts that we were interested in.
Okay. And so you moved into Fairview, and you were able to get into the Lovejoy School District. One of the things that people love about Fairview is that we're in the heart of this urban area, yet you have a little land, you said. So that's a nice little parcel that lets you kind of leave the city behind and you have country living.
Yeah, all of our friends, when they come over, they say, wow, you live in the country in the city. And
right?
so,
that's awesome, right?
I think
That's
they've
what
nailed
we're selling. I love that. A new tagline. So, Joe, tell me, you're a mortgage lender, which right now you've got to be, is it just going crazy?
I can tell you that recently my children made me eat dinner with them on a Sunday night, and they had a little piece of paper, and on it said 96. Since I've been working from home, I had no idea they were monitoring me, and they said, that's how many hours you've logged this week.
Oh, my goodness.
So, yeah, it's been crazy since, it's been going gangbusters since March, so we've been 80, 90 hours a week since then.
Oh, my goodness. So is it just mortgage lending just in your area, or do you cover all of the Metroplex, or just how does that work? What's your territory?
Well, I'm licensed in Texas, Louisiana, and Oklahoma.
Okay.
The vast majority of my work is here locally. It's been expanded lately just because it seems like my clients that I've done, I've been doing this 21 years, so I've got clients that bought their first $75,000 house with me, and 5 years later, a $250,000, then a $500,000, and now those folks are selling at top dollar because it's such a crazy market here. And either A, they're meeting retirement years and moving out to Northeast Texas, or B, they're realizing they can now work remotely, and so they go buy a lake house. And so they're selling here top dollar, moving further north or further east, getting a little bit of leg room, and it's competitive. It's crazy out there, the market.
Right. And we were seeing more and more people coming in from out of state. People were really worried when COVID happened, what that would do to the market and what's going to happen. And it seems to have been, people are flocking to Texas for a number of reasons, and that is driving that market just even crazier. So,
the sad part of that, though, is that they don't build $250,000 houses anymore. And so our first-timers, our beginners, can't enter the market. And then even if you find, let's say, a $300,000, well, if they end up going for $20,000 or $30,000 over that, Our first timers don't have that extra 30 grand, and the lender's not going to loan above what the house is valued at. And that's the negative part of our market, is getting into it, penetrating our market without having cash and capital is really, really hard. Now, Fairview's kind of isolated because, let's be honest, there are no $300,000 houses in Fairview. And so the land is worth more than that. And so for, it's still very limited product. Yesterday I pulled $600,000 houses in Fairview on 1 acre, and there were none available. Then I went and pulled Lucas and all the surrounding areas, none. They don't exist. So even our upper markets are just competitive.
People are buying them up.
Yeah. My best friend just sold his house in McKinney, and he listed it for $350,000, and in one day had 37 showings in 12 hours, 11 offers, and ended up taking an offer on a list price of $350,000, $396,000.
Wow.
There are people, that particular scenario, which is common, was someone moving from California. They had a wad of cash because they sold $1 million house that was a dump in California.
Right, they're getting nice product for that when they come to Texas.
Yeah, and they see a $350,000 in McKinney. They're like, oh my gosh, this is, $800,000 house where I come from. And because they sold top dollar, they have the cash. Well, it's making it difficult for our locals that haven't saved up the money to compete in that market.
Right.
So,
well, does that create an opportunity for developers and stuff to sort of these outlying communities that have some of the reason the land pricing in Fairview can be so much is because we like the 1 and 2 acre, 5 acre lots. And so now you're looking at communities, maybe Melissa and Princeton and different areas where there are developers building for that market.
Yeah.
And the good thing about being in Fairview, I guess, is too that, at 75 and 121, those are only 20-minute drive time. So if you have an office or you're a CEO and you want to move into Fairview and be on a 1 acre lot, have $1 million home with, a couple acres and some longhorns, you can do that. And your employees still can have a 20-minute commute because you've got a little office right here at 175 and 121.
Exactly. No, you bring up a great point because I've been doing mortgage so long. I feel like I'm pretty decent at it. And we were in Colorado at a soccer tournament when where we live now, the opportunity came up. And I don't make decisions super fast, but my wife showed me this home and she said, hey, a friend of mine, kind of like a pocket listing, this lady's going to sell this house in this 3.5 acres. And I literally said, buy it right now. And my wife looked at me. I said, buy it. Because with a minimum of 2 acres, the value can only go up. And I understand the math, how if you have, say, $1 million sitting on an acre and you only have one family that you have to provide city services for, compared to having 4 or 5 houses that you have to provide city services for, it seemed like it was a locked-in, values are only going to go up in Fairview, and it was a smart place to buy.
Right. Well, and that's what is really nice. You have these high-value homes, but also the city's done a really good job of managing the tax, the property tax, and people worry about that. But, our city is really efficient. And because it's so efficient, you're able to have this kind of, but you have some space, you have some elbow room, you have, and yet you're only 5 minutes from the Whole Foods and the Macy's and the Dillards and all of that, right? It's like my wife always says, I like to see Target out the front door and Longhorns out the back door. Uh-huh. That's her thing, right?
Yep.
So,
and I need that space. I've been told I'm a little loud, but I want to touch base on that too. The city services, fortunately and unfortunately, my family's had to use a couple of the emergency services here and medical reasons, and unbelievable. On a Sunday night at 10 o'clock, panicked, had to call 911, and there was a police officer at my door in 2 minutes. And my driveway is 1,000 feet up Stacy Road to get to my house. I couldn't even believe when I heard a knock on the door. I didn't know what to do. I was already kind of panicking. And, of course, I got his attention when he walked in, and I hunt. And so he walks in the first room he goes into is my trophy room. And, But I can't thank those guys enough. It was the services that we've received here is absolutely phenomenal.
We do have, the ISO rating for the fire's off the charts. We have full fire, full police, and when people look at our tax rate and our city's size, they just can't believe that's what we have. And so you get the best of both worlds, and it's kind of a well-kept secret, although it's really not. People really like it here. They don't, they like their elbow room and they want to keep that feel. And I think the city's done a good job of maintaining that country feel and having the neighborly. The reason this show is called Getting Neighborly is because we like to know our neighbors. So, Joe, what is some of the things that you would like to sort of let your neighbors know about Supreme Lending, what you do, how can they use your services? Where's your office? Where do they find you?
So personally, I have multiple offices. Of course, since March, the majority of it's been at my house. I sold my building in Plano, and in fact, I took all the furniture from my particular office there and moved it to my house. So it was just like I never left. But I have an office in McKinney, in the Adriatica, and then we're actually about to open up over at Caddo, now formerly Jaeger, fixing to put one over there. And I'm going to move another small one that I have in Plano over to that location. So personally, I'll be more at the Allen location. April 1st is when I actually make that move.
Okay.
And so, but I've been doing this, like I said, for 21 years. I built my business. I'm all 100% referral only. And so there are others, like I can mention Rodney Anderson, great man, good originator, and everybody's heard him on the radio. I've just been really blessed to where mine's all word of mouth. And so I built more of a smaller boutique office because we take inbound phone calls without having to pay for radio ads.
Right.
And that's worked out really, really well. And evidently we've been treating people right, because if you pull up my pipeline and I have someone's, like, if it says Quinn, if it's got somebody's last name, there's generally about 7 of them, because I've done them, their brother, their sister, their cousin, their, and so that's a good feeling to look. And just about every call that we receive, it's someone that was highly had referred them to us.
I believe that, and I can understand why, Joe, having served with you on the Allen Fairview Chamber, and you might speak to that. Sharon and her team, they do a fantastic job of connecting the business community and selling the community and really providing those resources. Talk to us a little bit about your time on the chamber and sort of maybe how you got there. We talked a little bit before we started recording, and that's it's always kind of fun. That's kind of how things normally happen.
That was forced.
Yeah. What forced?
But it turned out to be an absolute blessing. I mean, I can't say enough. Being in what I do for a living, I do networking. So I've been to pretty much every chamber meeting around, and not to say anything negative about others, but the Allen Fairview Chamber, it can't be beat. I mean, when we had the storm here a couple of weeks ago, for Sharon and the staff up there to put together a list of services that our members provide that might be in need of those services after a storm, that's brilliant.
Yeah, everybody was asking, right? Like on the Facebook pages, everybody's like, well, I need a plumber and I need this.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what a Chamber of Commerce does. And so I love them. And I kid about being forced. I had a mentor that kind of forced me into it. But getting involved in the Chamber, I think I've been involved for 11, 12 years now, also got me into leadership. And so I'm a proud graduate from the Garland County Association of Realtors leadership class. But since 3 years ago, I graduated from the Allen Fairview Chamber leadership. And that, I went into it thinking, well, I've already done a leadership program. What am I going to learn? It blew me away. I learned more. I had no idea what I didn't know. And I recommend that to anybody. But that's what got me more interested in leadership. In fact, I almost ran for school board, but my 14-year-old wouldn't let me. She was embarrassed. So that was the only thing that prevented me. But it built my drive for leadership to help in the community. And so I do way more volunteering now. I help wherever I can, and it was all from that little first step in to leadership program.
Well, that's, I always tell people that leadership programs, you can tell towns that have it, they tend to be more successful, but just because they grow their own leaders, right? There people who start out, toe in the water, they get started, and then they start volunteering, and then they start seeing, hey, I can serve, and here's how I can make an impact. And they do it with an understanding of the holistic picture of the community, right? Because it's not just city, it's not just the school district, it's the whole system, right? Private side, public side, all of these pieces working in concert, and the leadership programs that or cities that have leadership programs really are the winners because of that particular thing. So, well, thank you for your leadership. Now, we talked a little bit about Lovejoy and the school district. Tell me about how that's been. And here in Fairview, you have a couple of different options. We're blessed that you can choose Lovejoy or McKinney. You happen to be in the Lovejoy side. So tell me a little bit about the Lovejoy School District and what that's been like.
Again, love Allen. Had great experiences there. And my youngest, my 2 girls both have dyslexia. And my littlest one has, I forgot the technical term of it, but it's one where the words not only flip backwards and forwards, they move. And so it's like literally trying to catch a moving target for her. That's tough. And the programs that they have here for dyslexia and ADD are unbeatable. And so when I learned, in fact, Allen and Fairview share some of those. Some of the teachers are the same. So like when we left Allen, my littlest one, the teacher that she got here in Lovejoy actually was her teacher from Allen, and she still teaches at both. So that was one of the main things that we said we would only move from Allen ISD if it were Lovejoy because of those specialty programs. And so I can gladly say that my 14-year-old graduated from the dyslexia program in 7th grade, and my 12-year-old just finished chapter 12, I think it is, and so she will graduate out of it this year.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And isn't that crazy that you think about how much that impacts not being able to see. I take it for granted, right? Being able to read, and I don't have any issues, but the word starts dancing and flips backwards. I can't imagine that would put a halt on your education and not wanting to learn. So,
and they involved the parents, so that they're the ones that taught me what she was going through. I had no, your first instinct is, oh my gosh, these other kids are reading faster than my kid. Is there but no, they spent almost as much time with my wife and I as they did with Lainey teaching us, so that it helped. Once we understood what she was going through, it made coaching her so much better. So,
right.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. So what are you looking forward to? We've got, we're coming out of COVID. Thank goodness. We're starting to return to some normalcy, if you want to call it that. What are you looking forward to? What do you do when you're not working 96 hours a week? And
well, we're very blessed. We have we've got 80 acres and a cabin out in East Texas. And in fact, if I don't go, 2 or 3 weeks in a row, my wife tells me to go. So I think that's a compliment. But it's my place. We're just like anything. We're busy with soccer and cheer, and so we're 90-0. And my wife and I seem like we just do handoffs periodically with the kids, with our schedule. But we go every few weeks, and we run out there, and it's a little bit slower, a little bit quieter, and it allows me to have some one-on-one time with each one of my children. And that's where we spend most of our time. We go hunting, go fishing, go hiking, and that's kind of our thing. But I've learned that it's actually better if I take one of them at a time. And so, but that's the only opportunity I have.
So now, how far a drive is that? How far out?
From here, it's less than 2 hours.
Okay.
So just between like Paris and Clarksville area.
Okay.
And
so you can get out of the.
Yep.
You can get out of the area and spend some time alone with nature and,
absolutely.
And the kids.
And we know the locals there, and so to them, we're city folk. So they kind of look forward to us coming, and they also look forward to us going. But it just takes off a little bit of the stress. Blood pressure slows down. Everything slows down a little bit. Well, you're from West Texas. You kind of know how that goes.
Uh-huh.
But it seems like I come back rejuvenated and ready to go again. So
right.
Yeah, so we spend most of our time. That and soccer, the kids take up our time. So.
Well, do you have any other, doing the mortgage industry, what other professional interests do you have? What are you involved with?
It's typically mortgage and real estate related. So I'm also an expert witness for a few law firms when it comes to mortgage cases. Unfortunately, it's generally during the divorce scenario where I have to say he or she can or can't qualify if he or she retains the house, that type of thing. And so, but it's, it's nice somebody's got to do that. And so it's nice that I can help out there. I'm also a mortgage instructor, so I teach classes. And so everything's been on Zoom since March, but we're about to open up to face-to-face again, where I used to have 50 or 60 people in a class, and I miss that because it's true. They say that you learn by teaching. And also I've got a big portfolio of real estate, both commercial and residential. In fact, I just bought a house here in Fairview, right down the street from us, as a matter of fact, that I'm going to renovate, and we'll be putting that one back on the market soon. So I don't like quiet time.
I was about to say, you don't sit around much.
I don't sit still very often, yeah.
Well, Joe, thank you for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate it. I think, again, we're so blessed in Fairview to have the quality of people that we have here. And again, you're obviously a representative of that with the business community that you have built, the businesses you've built, and just the service that you provide through the chamber and giving back. When people ask why Fairview or what makes Fairview special, and I know a lot of people talk about it, but truly the people that we have here is next to none. And Joe, I appreciate you being a resident and being a guest on our show. So any last words, any shout outs you'd like to make before we sign off for today?
Just not to sound corny, but I'm telling you right now, if I go to Dallas and I'm working around the other areas, when I drive through those gates at my house, my blood pressure drops 10 points, right pulling through the gates. And that's been wonderful for me. I can kind of leave the city back behind me and go through there. And honestly, I just want all my friends and family that are, have the opportunity to share in that same thing. It's been great for me.
Man, Joe, I couldn't have said any better. Thank you so much. Hey, guys, thank you for joining us on this another episode of Getting Neighborly here in Fairview, Texas. I'm your host, Super Dave Quinn. I want to encourage you to go do a search on your podcast, look for Getting Neighborly, see our other shows, meet those folks that make Fairview so special. When you do, subscribe to the channel, give us a rating if you would, and also leave a review. That helps get the story out there and helps people know where we are and helps promote the city and the town that you love. So thank you very much, and see you later. Thank you for listening to this episode of Getting Neighborly in Fairview, Texas. If you're a business owner interested in calling Fairview home, contact our office by email at edc@fairviewtexas.org or visit us on the web at fairviewtexasedc.com. And if you're a resident and you know someone we should hear from, nominate them at fairviewtexasedc.com/neighbors.